So this video is something I've been thinking about for a little bit now and trying to collate all of the biggest lessons that I've been taking note of in my in-water coaching, which we can use to make our surfing easier. And it's the easy to implement sort of stuff that really makes a big difference. Or the way I usually explain it is the biggest levers that we can pull in order to create notable improvements. And this stuff is sort of how to implement a bunch of the stuff that we see experienced surfers make things look so easy with. But rather than it being about feel or just time in the water, which are also super important, these are going to be some practical things that you can actually implement into your next sessions. A lot of the time we think it's about our strength or our technique, but knowing how to make a few small adjustments can make a really, really big difference in your efficiency out in the water and making getting back out the back easier, helping you position yourself properly for waves so you're catching them at the right time. We'll also look into nosedives, paddling more smoothly, and using the wave's energy more effectively. Instead of getting stuck behind waves or being forced to make things happen, you'll be able to flow a little bit more naturally and ride these waves with a lot less effort. So if you are new here, my name's Considine and I'm a professional longboarder, a surf coach and a physiotherapist. And I created a platform called longboardsessions.com to help surfers experience the absolute best out of their surfing. Just last week, we added a new series to the free members section at longboardsessions.com, which I think would be really relevant to some of the things we're talking about today. So I'll leave a link to that down below if you want to check that out. And if you do find the video valuable, if you find it useful today, then please feel free to subscribe. It is a really, really great way to support the channel. And if you know of anyone else who this video might be helpful for as well, then feel free to share it with them, of course. But otherwise, let's get straight into the edit. So the main problems that we're going to be tackling here are inefficiency and wasted energy out in the water. And a lot of surfers paddle too much or catch the waves at the wrong time or struggle with positioning both for the wave and whilst they're on the wave as well, whether they're aware of it or not. And all of this does make surfing feel a lot harder than it does need to be. So by focusing on the adjustments that we're going to go through today, you'll be able to conserve your energy, improve your control with the board, and just be able to use the wave more efficiently as well. One of the biggest things that I see surfers do is wasting energy whilst we're going through waves. And this is probably where a lot of people get pretty frustrated and feel like paddling is just super exhausting, of course, especially if there's a lot of white water to push through. Most of the time what happens is we get pushed back by the wave, the board moves into awkward positions and we get turned around, and then we have to spend all of our time and energy repositioning ourselves. Then just maybe as we're back on track, then we have to go through the same thing again because a wave comes and knocks us back again. At first, you might actually think that this is more of like a strength and or endurance problem. The reality is a lot of the energy that you're using doesn't actually need to be used. And there are some small technical adjustments which will really, really help to conserve your energy and maintain control whilst getting out the back efficiently, leaving you with more energy to catch the waves and ride the waves. So the first thing to talk about is approaching the whitewater. A lot of surfers do tend to stop too early when they see the wave coming. And if you stop before you hit the whitewater in terms of your paddling, you do reduce the speed that you have going into the wave. And the result is you get pushed back far more than is actually necessary. And this can be maybe being pushed back even like 5 or 10 meters more every wave. And over time, that is a ton of wasted energy, as we spoke about. The solution here is actually to paddle hard and fast toward the wave. And when the wave is almost on you, that's when you bring your hands closer to the rails and you push up through it. Approaching the whitewater with your speed and this force allows you to stay in control of the board really, really well and reduces how much the wave can actually push you back, and it helps you get through the wave much more efficiently as well. Another benefit is going into the wave with more speed reduces the chance that the whitewater will actually spin your board around or push you or the board in ways that you don't want. And many surfers, including myself, we've all been there where we go through a piece of strong whitewater without much speed and then we have the board twist or flip or kind of skyrockets the board or yourself. So if you do approach fast and controlled, then these chaotic kind of effects are minimized quite a lot. And fortunately, this gives you a lot more of a smoother pathway through the waves. The next thing that we really want to focus on is our hand placement and our arm extension as well. So as you paddle toward the wave, place your hands directly under your ribs around the center of your board, and this will give you a lot of control. And a common mistake here is when we actually put our hands more in line with our shoulders or even further forward. And when that happens, you don't have as much control and you can't really push up as effectively either. We really need to leverage being able to fully extend the arms in order to create the space between your chest and the board, which is what allows the wave to pass underneath. And this does reduce a lot of that pushback and make it easier to move through the wave as well. Because if your elbows aren't fully extended, if they're a little bit bent, or if they're a bit too far forwards, the wave will have a larger surface area of your body to push against, and it makes it much harder to get through. So full arm extension and placing the hands in the correct position in line with the ribs, if possible, does make a surprisingly big difference there as well. The third thing to think about is the path of the nose of your board. So the most efficient way to get through a wave is for the nose to go slightly underneath the whitewater actually. And the board's kind of doing like a mini duck dive underneath the whitewater. I find if we drive our board straight into the whitewater, the wave pushes a little bit underneath, and this is where we get our board flinging up and kind of getting tossed around. So as you paddle toward the wave, you want to push through and make sure that your nose doesn't rise too high beforehand. And this is another problem I see for a lot of surfers who are paddling too far back on their board, which is another inefficiency in and of itself. But if the whitewater is very strong, you might need alternative techniques as well to get through, like a turtle roll or a duck dive or a surf rescue popover, where if the distance between your board and how high you can actually push yourself up is less than how tall that whitewater is, they're definitely some of the approaches that I'm looking to use. So the next part to this is catching waves, and this is another major point where efficiency is often lost. And most beginner to intermediate surfers do make the same mistakes here, where they're paddling too hard too early and not positioning themselves quite correctly for the wave, or trying to match the speed of the wave as we're paddling into it, which if you've heard me speak on this channel before, you know that I disagree pretty heavily with. Instead, what I feel we should be doing is really focusing on our positioning and timing. So before you start emphasizing your paddle for the wave, you'll obviously need to be in the right spot, and that's when you emphasize your paddling at the right time. A really effective strategy is to sit on your tail of the board whilst you're waiting for the wave. Many surfers sit in the middle and then quickly try and lie down when the wave approaches, which if you try what I'm about to tell you versus that, then you will see a world of difference. Sitting on the tail lets you read the wave, angle the board easily and correctly, and prepare for a really efficient start to your paddle as well. What I'd like you to try here is to turn the board about 45 degrees from the beach. So say you're the beach here, not 90 degrees across, but just about 45 degrees from the beach there. And this angle is so important so we're ready to commence paddling, but it also gives you a really good ability to read the wave easily still. So you can still see what's happening behind you. And this positioning sets up what we can call the corkscrew effect, which helps the board move forwards smoothly as you shift your weight forwards. So as you're reading the wave and the wave is getting closer, when you feel that it's actually time to start paddling, you want to just allow yourself to fall forwards into the lying down position. And this will get you in the right spot much more easily versus the thing that we spoke about before, where you'll be much less heavy on the board. And with the board being angled slightly up a little bit and submerged in the water, it just makes these little micro adjustments of your positioning for your paddle much, much easier. Rather than lying down on your board flat and having to slide yourself backward, which is another massive time burner. And regarding the corkscrew, as you lie down and the weight shifts from your tail through to the middle nice and smoothly, you'll actually get a really natural glide forwards and a bit of momentum. And this actually makes your paddling so much more effective. And this is the effect that you might see some advanced surfers using as well, where they actually catch away with that paddling. So we're getting that same effect. And once the wave reaches your tail, give 2, 3, or 4 really strong paddles to catch it efficiently. And it's an important thing to remember that everything before the wave hits the tail is about positioning. The hard paddling comes into place once the wave reaches the tail. But once you're on the wave, the most critical part is now your pop-up. So where you pop up on the wave, it really determines how well you're going to be able to go with the wave and just how effectively you're able to ride the wave. And our aim here is always to be popping up near the top of the wave, not the mid face or definitely not down at the bottom, because popping up low requires extra work, and simply put, it just makes everything pretty impossible in the way of riding a wave efficiently. But this is unfortunately where a lot of surfers in their intermediate or beginner stages are at, because as we're riding whitewater, obviously, we're popping up at the bottom. And so this is usually a fair barrier that we need to overcome. But a fast pop-up at the top of the wave gives you the best start and the most options to kind of continue your path down as a surfer. If your pop-up isn't fast or feeling really snappy, then that is something that a lot of people tackle via mobility or strength or power or just a lot of technical improvements. And that is something that I help people with a lot in my one-on-one physio and performance work. I've actually developed an 8-week program called POP-UP REHAB, and this does focus on the programming and techniques to nail this for surfers. So if you did feel like you needed any sort of personal assistance, feel free to get in touch. I'll leave the program details down below where you can contact me. But if you can nail that pop-up at the top, we have the world of options to kind of go down. I like to use the analogy of if we're a snowboarder at the top of the hill and then we're on our feet as we're riding down the wave. We want to have that, or the hill, we want to have that same feeling. So I guess sometimes if we're not used to popping up at the top, it can be a little bit daunting, but it is 100% the thing that we need to go for and become really good at, because if we're not able to do this, this will be holding your surfing back probably a little bit more than you realize as well. Then after your pop-up, staying high on the wave is also key, which again, I've talked a ton about on this channel. You can angle from the start, which I like for people who are still working on their pop-up to use in order to stay high. Or of course, you can use that tail pop to engage the tail and turn immediately from the start of the wave. Avoiding the bottom third, or what I call the danger zone, is really, really important because this is where, again, we lose all of our speed and all of our balance, especially for beginner to intermediate surfers. I feel like staying mid-face gives you much more control and speed and all those options that we need. And then as you advance to deep bottom turns and things like that, that's when we can start to discuss using the bottom third or the flats. But for the moment, just stick to that mid-face or the high face of the wave. Being high in the wave allows you to utilize the wave's energy really efficiently. Rather than forcing everything, we can maintain momentum and control and just everything else. So I hope that was really, really helpful. If you had any questions based on any of that, then feel free to leave those in the comments below and we can have a bit of a chat. If you did want to see anything else on the channel from like a surf technique or a strength, mobility side of things, then let me know as well. Super happy to kind of be guided by you as to what you'd like to see. And I will pop on the screen here somewhere video breaking down the positioning versus paddling kind of mentality and the two different approaches to catching the wave there, which again, I think is really, really important. But other than that, we'll leave that there for today and we'll catch you on the next one.